Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. As I'm sure you're probably aware, there's been a fairly major patch for World of Warships recently. And conscious, of course, of the fact that if I went and updated my installation of World of Warships, I wouldn't be able to view any of the replays that had been sent to me prior to the patch. I opened up my emails and I just had a quick look through the multitude of emails that I had been sent just to see if anything caught my eye, and boy oh boy am I glad I did, because if I hadn't I would never have seen this game. This is Hazard Drake in the German Tier 10 destroyer, the Z52. I don't actually have this ship myself yet, I've only made it as far as Tier 8 in the German destroyer line, so what I really know about this ship is from things that I've read online or from watching other Z52 replays. This match starts off bad and gets worse very, very quickly. Right at the beginning, the team are trying to decide which two capture points they should go for, Alpha, Bravo, or Bravo and Charlie. The Conqueror on the team suggests Bravo and Charlie and immediately starts heading off in the direction of Charlie. Somebody else points out that most of the ships on the team have spawned by Alpha and Bravo, so they should go for them instead. Meanwhile, Hazard Drake has fired up his engine boost and he's sneaking an early capture of Bravo. The issue here is not which are the two best capture points to go for when you start from the south on the mountain range map. This is just a random battle. As long as the team picks a pair of capture points and all goes for those 2 points together, you're already displaying probably a higher level of teamwork than the enemy team. So it doesn't matter if you all go for the wrong 2 set of capture points as long as you do it all together. If you can accomplish even that much teamwork in a random battle, then you're already probably doing better than the enemy team. But what is instead happening here is everybody's arguing with each other still over which capture points they should be going for, the insults are flying in chat, and everybody's basically just sailing around in random directions doing their own thing. So things are starting badly and they're about to get a lot worse. Hazard Drake's just capped Bravo. So what the hell this New Orleans thought he was doing, I have absolutely no idea. None whatsoever. He hasn't even gotten in range to fire a shot yet and he's already lost half of his health and failed to get into the capture circle in time. So if he was coming down here hoping to get some capture points, he's even failed at doing that. But that was only really mildly stupid of the New Orleans. He's going to survive that mistake. What you're going to see happen next defies description. Nevertheless, I'll have a good go. So, no sign of enemy destroyers at Bravo, and nobody's capping Charlie, so Hazard Drake and a Fletcher decide maybe we can cap Charlie as well. And then he sees the Moskva, and he thinks to himself, nope, radar cruiser, no chance. The second he sees that cap circle start to flip, he's going to fire up his radar. But then the Fletcher starts shooting at a Moskva at a range of less than 10 kilometers, so the Moskva now doesn't even need to use his radar. The Fletcher's just given his position away. And it's not just one Moskva, by the way, there are 2 of them and a Yamato back there. To make matters worse, the Fletcher then starts slowing down, just in case he wasn't easy enough to hit for that Moskva, and then tries to hide inside a smoke screen in front of a radar cruiser. And while it was the Moskva who killed him, with secondaries, he actually managed to sail into a very expertly judged spread of torpedoes as well that did the lion's share of the damage to him. And those torpedoes were fired before the Fletcher was even spotted. So there is an enemy destroyer who made some remarkably good guesses about where his torpedoes were going to do the most good. In fact, a set of torpedoes probably fired by that same destroyer very nearly caught Hazard Drake as well. And there's the Moskva's radar. Now the Moskva does have a very, very long range radar, but it doesn't last as long as the radar on the Des Moines. So as long as he doesn't emulate that idiot in the Fletcher and start firing his guns at a Tier 10 cruiser, yeah, there we go. He's out of radar range and the Moskva can't see him anymore. Now, I did say things were going to get much worse before they started getting any better, and right now things aren't actually looking too bad. They've sunk an enemy New Orleans, and that Shimakaze over there has also just taken out the enemy Shimakaze, who fired those expertly predicted torpedoes that hit the Fletcher inside his smokescreen and also narrowly missed Hazard Drake. Hazard Drake's torpedoes have just reloaded, And coincidentally, and unfortunately for Hazard Drake, that Shimakaze's torpedoes have just reloaded as well. Yep, that actually just happened. You might be wondering why he's still alive after taking 5 torpedoes at point blank range from a Shimakaze. And the reason for that is because of damage saturation. They all hit the same section of the ship, and after the first 2 torpedoes had hit, there was basically nothing left there for them to damage. So it's a consolation, but only a small one, because Hazard Drake now has to play the rest of this match, which has only just started, on 2060 health, and his team are down 2 capture points and 3 ships. And also, the enemy team would like to express their thanks and admiration for that idiot in the Fletcher, who was now provided a nice little smokescreen for their cruisers to hide behind. But you know what they say about smokescreens? They're torpedo magnets. And there's the Yamato. Now there was a Hipper in there as well, and he will have hydroacoustic search and might be running it because he was sailing through a smokescreen. In which case that Yamato will have warning that there are torpedoes on the way. But it doesn't look like he was, and we're going to get 2 torpedo hits. Yeah. What happened next really confused me, because you can see the Moskva, he's 13 kilometers away, his radar range is 11.7. And yet, Hazard Drake just got lit up by radar. It's not the Hipper does not have radar, and even if he did, it wouldn't have that kind of range. It's not the Moskva. He's outside the Moskva's radar range. It took me a while to figure it out, but what's actually going on here, it's this guy here. That's a Missouri, and it's his radar that's spotting him. And so, spotted by a Missouri within gun range of a Moskva and secondary range of a Yamato with only 2060 health remaining, Hazard Drake just went a full-on brown alert. Oh, before it's too late, I probably should mention, just in case you didn't see it in chat, the Shimakaze who friendly fire torpedoed Hazard Drake with 5 torpedoes was incredibly apologetic about it, by the way. I mean, you might all be saying, God damn it, what an idiot, and he probably wouldn't argue with you. But he is a good teammate, and he was very, very sorry for his carelessness. And just the fact that he apologised puts him leagues ahead of most careless with torpedoes random battle teammates who will hit you with friendly torpedoes and not even have the decency to say sorry. Speaking of torpedoes, how are these doing? The Yamato's gone unspotted. It's a good wide spread, it stands a decent chance of hitting something. But that Yamato surely isn't going to be dumb enough to get hit by torpedoes fired twice from the same direction. And no, he's not. So, while there's nothing of immediate interest happening, I'd like to draw your attention to chat, where the gearing on the enemy team was just torpedoed a friendly New Orleans, and appears to be very, very, very pleased with himself about it. Now, I have absolutely no issue with a bit of banter going on in chat. I don't mind people talking the talk, as long as they're capable of walking the walk, and their hastily chosen words don't come back to bite them in the arse later on in the match. So, mild spoiler alert for you where that enemy gearing is concerned. Right now, he's the big man in chat, lording it over the New Orleans that he just sunk with torpedoes, but we're going to be seeing more of him later. Speaking of being a big man in chat, the Conqueror on the team, who's been loitering around the Charlie Cap point the entire game, and in fact started the whole argument in team chat right at the start of the battle over which of the 2 cap circles they were going to go for, has been nothing but a toxic dick to his team this entire game. Now, by the time this battle's done, there may be some of you who feel the urge to come to the defence of the Conqueror player in the comments section of this video, because, well, he may very well be correct. And also, it turns out he's a pretty good player. But I'd just like to point out, if you're feeling that way, that Hitler and Stalin were both pretty good at PvP too. But that doesn't mean they weren't colossal arseholes. Anyway, that comparison drawn. Yes, I did just compare somebody to Hitler. This video went south very quickly. Anyway, 1 torpedo hit on the Moskva, but no flooding. And Hazard Drake's been forced to pull back, lest he stray within sonar range of that Hipper. And at that kind of range, that would be very, very bad indeed. That Hipper almost certainly knows that he's down here. Or he should, if he's been paying any attention. I mean, Hazard Drake's torpedoes just sailed right past him and hit the Moskva. But you'll note that the North Carolina is making his move on that Moskva. It's very brave of the North Carolina, attacking battleship Moskva. But there are a couple of other things going on at the moment that are also worthy of attention, particularly around the Bravo cap circle, which is being defended by Jimbo 1979, the Shimakaze from earlier, in a point-blank range fight to the death between him, the enemy gearing, Ognovoy, and Missouri. And then a whole bunch of things happen in a very short space of time. First, well, that Hipper really should have known better. First, the duel between battleship Moskva and the North Carolina ends with the Moskva emerging victorious, big surprise there. Then the Ognovoy, who was fighting Jimbo 1979 in the Shimakaze, kills Jimbo with his torpedoes, sinks the Minotaur with his torpedoes, and Jimbo 1979's Shimakaze gets just a flesh wound award by burning the Ognovoy down, which means he was shooting at the Ognovoy. So a Russian destroyer just sank a Minotaur and a Shimakaze with his torpedoes, and the Shimakaze sank a Russian destroyer with his guns?
Right.
Yep, that's what I thought. All of which means that they're losing badly. They have 3 ships against 6, they're down by over 500 points, and the only capture point that they've held this entire game is busy being flipped, presumably by an enemy destroyer. It's when Captain Arsehole in the Conqueror manages to at least put down battleship Moskva, and finally starts doing what he said he was going to do at the start of the game, capturing C. Unfortunately, he then starts taking it right up the Gary Glitter from the enemy Missouri. However, another enemy ship has gone down, sunk by the Fletcher, all the way over the other side of the map. He's managed to take down the enemy Tirpitz. But there are still 2 enemy destroyers out there as well. We know there's a Gearing, and I think the other one's a Shiratsuyu. And we don't know where they are, but we know at least one of them has just flipped Bravo. So, probably in the direction of that very suspicious looking smoke screen over there. But look at the direction indicated by the radar position finder. It's pointing over there. So there's an enemy ship out there somewhere, and whoever and whatever he is, it's got to be one of the destroyers. He's closer than the Missouri. Trying to get the torpedoes away against the Missouri there. And he's spotted. Launches the torpedoes, and then turns to see who's spotted him. Now what you're going to see is quite funny, but it's even more funny if you understand exactly what is happening. It's the Yugamo, and with 2060 health, Hazard Drake cannot take any chances here, so he dumps his smoke. And the Yugamo makes his first mistake, he fires his guns. At that range, from within the smoke screen, Hazard wouldn't be able to see him, but he's shooting, and so he's now spotted by the Conqueror. Then he makes his second mistake. He turns in towards him, obviously to fire his torpedoes. Hazard Drake's sonar has a 4.02 kilometer range, and he's now inside sonar range, so even if he pops his smoke, Hazard Drake is still going to see him. And of course he can see his torpedoes the second they're launched, because he launched them from within inside sonar range. The second Hazard dumped his smoke screen, the only thing that Yugamo had to do to win was not fire his guns and be more than 4 kilometers away. And he started the fight more than 4 kilometers away. So that is how a full health Yugamo gets utterly schooled by a Z52 with less than 10% of its health remaining. But before you all start getting carried away, calm down, back to your seats, stop cheering. They've lost the Fletcher. They don't hold any of the capture points, although the Conqueror is starting to capture Charlie. And, well, it doesn't really matter, because even if Hazard captures Bravo and he's going for it, the enemy team still have a 400 point lead, and there just isn't really time left for them to flip that points advantage. So all the enemy team have to do at this point to win is nothing. Just sit on their 400 point lead and wait for the match to time out. Oh look, here comes the Iowa. He is more or less on full health. Iowa, unlike the Missouri, doesn't have radar. But you don't need radar to know that when the cap circle right next to you starts to flip and you can't see anything, there's probably a destroyer in there. I mean, I know the Conqueror has a pretty good surface detection value, but it's not that good. So the Iowa surely has to know that the Z52 is in this cap circle somewhere. And if the Z52 is in the cap circle, then it has to be the Conqueror that's just capped Charlie. But he's sailing broadside on, not only to the torpedoes, but to the volley of incoming fire from the Conqueror, who, well, it's a Conqueror. He's firing high explosive. But the Iowa is just begging for that Conqueror to switch to armor piercing and just delete him with a single salvo. And yep, the Iowa did not get the memo about the torpedoes, and apparently the Conqueror didn't get the memo about his armor piercing ammunition either. However, those torpedoes caused flooding. So the Iowa has used his damage control. And despite the fact that he could have already ended that Iowa if he'd fired armor piercing with his second salvo, any further high explosive hits from the Conqueror, and here they come, are very likely to set fires that are going to continue to burn. But oh look, the radio position finder indicator just flipped from pointing at the Iowa to pointing over to the left hand side. That must be the gearing. Yep, there he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Big Mouth from chat earlier. This is a guy who, when his team has over 900 points and all he has to do is stay hidden, decides it's a good idea to take a destroyer with 1200 health into a gunfight against a battleship that's infamous for firing nothing but high explosive, and an enemy destroyer who may only have 2060 health, but that's almost twice what you have remaining, and also has a better surface detection range into the bargain, which means he's going to get off not just the first, but in fact also the second salvo. You can talk the talk, but you have to be able to walk the walk as well. And there's one and two further torpedo hits against the Iowa, who also had to do nothing in order to win this game. And he's flooding again. And there is absolutely nothing that he can do about it. The damage numbers continue to tick up. There's 130,000, 132, 133. Remember, all these two ships had to do to win was nothing. And they couldn't even get that right. How do you fail so hard that you can't even do nothing properly? I did not expect this to be a win. The argument in chat and the complete cluster at the beginning with ships going in all directions and no clear plan, the suicidal Fletcher who died in the perfect position to give the enemy cruisers smokescreen cover, and the friendly fire incident from the Shimakaze who sent 5 torpedoes right into Hazard's ship, leaving him on 2060 health for almost the entire game. How the enemy team were able to snatch defeat from a victory of this magnitude, I have no idea. But Hazard, thank you so much for sending that one in. I am so very, very happy I took one final look through my email folder before updating World of Warships in the latest patch, because if I hadn't, I would never have been able to enjoy this game. And I hope everybody else enjoyed it too, because that's it for today. Hazard, once again, thank you for sending it in. And everybody else, take care, and I'll catch you next time.